What is up, guys? Welcome to Real Talk, the unedited, scripted, unfiltered show where I sit down with a gaming personality and talk about anything and everything. 2 years ago, a man set a challenge for himself. Stream on Twitch every day for 2 years. What started as a rather small, meaningless to the masses goal has turned Matthew McKnight into one of the biggest Twitch personalities on the platform. Thousands tune in every night to watch the streamer play games, and I'm excited to speak with him as he's nearly 4 weeks out from the final day. LethalFrag, welcome to Real Talk.
Hello, hello.
I'm glad you could join us. I think a lot of people, myself included, as I was talking to you at the start of this, was asking about your sleep schedule. Since you do have this crazy, one of the only streamers I know that can stream all night, goes to sleep in the morning, from what I can tell, then wakes up at a pretty normal hour. One would think that you would wake up at 9, 10 o'clock right before broadcast, but you wake up in the middle of the day, don't you?
Yeah, most of the time I get about 5 or 6 hours of sleep, sometimes more, sometimes less. So I usually go on about 5 hours of sleep, and then every couple weeks I'll get 10 hours a night or something like that. But
Has it been like that for 2 years?
it's been that way my entire life, really. I've always been a crazy night owl, so it's not all that much of an adjustment for me.
Well, January 5th, I mean, it's right around the corner. Are you counting the days yet? You've hit the under 30 mark, and I think that was kind of a big thing for you, was it not?
It's definitely a big thing for me. It feels kind of surreal, to be honest. We're 3 weeks, about 3 weeks out from an ending. Kind of just taking it day by day at this point. It snuck up on me pretty quick.
Well, we'll come back to the challenge, but for now, I want to focus on like LethalFrag or Matthew McKnight pre-Twitch. Where were you born, and where'd you grow up?
I was born in Van Nuys, California. I spent most of my time in Washington, though. I probably spent 90% of my life in Washington, other than traveling back and forth. My parents own a business in California, so I did some traveling there, but most of it in Washington State.
What type of business were your parents in? What they do for
They own
work?
a patent drafting company, so have an invention, you send it to a patent attorney, it gets drawn up by them for copyright reasons.
Interesting, interesting. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I am an only child.
I mean, do you see kind of or I guess looking back, do you see the effects that kind of had on your childhood, or was it just a normal childhood for you?
It felt pretty normal to me. It's hard for me to say since I've never had any brothers or sisters. I mean, there were points in my life where I wanted brothers or sisters, but who knows how that actually affected. All my friends had brothers and sisters, and they seemed like kind of a pain, so maybe it was to my benefit.
With your parents running kind of their own business, was there times in your life looking back that you wish they were there more, or even wish they were there left? I would assume that they were probably pretty busy for the better part of your childhood. Is that correct?
Oh, my dad was pretty busy, but he always made time for me, whether it was, a half hour a day, something. I always got one-on-one time. So I was very appreciative of that. I mean, sure, you always want more time with your parents, but I definitely grew up seeing him work very hard. It's definitely an inspiration for me. I
Well,
feel like I had a really good childhood in that regards. So
great, great. What was school like for you?
I was homeschooled up till the seventh grade, and I'd
Wow.
say after that I really didn't care about school very much.
Was
I
that
was I was bad. I was a bad student through high school and stuff like that. I just didn't really didn't want to apply myself, I guess.
I think a lot of when people say homeschooling, that there's a lot of questions that immediately go up.
Sure.
Do you think that affected you at all as a child growing up? Was there things that you could see that you did maybe on a daily basis that once you went to a public or private school, that you noticed other kids were doing differently?
Not so much there. I didn't feel like it hindered me in like a social aspect at all. I was still a very social child. I wasn't like secluded from society or anything like that. I think the main thing that got me when I went to actual school was I felt like I was ahead of the curriculum, so I became bored, and then I didn't care if I got A's or not. So I just kind of did my own thing.
Is it safe to say while you were homeschooled that you were getting A's and you were kind of a quote unquote good student?
Yeah, definitely. Receiving a very good education.
What was it, public or private school that you ended up attending?
I went to private school first, and then a public school after that. About the same experience, and I think there's that much difference between the two. It's still school is school.
Sure, sure. Did you have a favorite subject or anything like that?
I always excelled at science and English. I liked them. I really disliked math. That was not my thing.
That was not your thing. prior to going to school, I think you said up until the seventh grade. Were you part of like any? Where did you meet your friends? Was it just kids around the neighborhood? Is that kind of your social area?
Kids around the neighborhood, and I played basketball and other sports and things of that nature. So I was always around other kids as a child.
Upon attending school, public or I guess private school and public school, what clique did you kind of fit into? Were you kind of on the outside, or
I
did you
was
get involved?
definitely an outlier. I always had one or two friends, but other than that, I was pretty much doing my own thing. I was kind of a loner. I definitely became a lot more withdrawn when I entered the school system.
Is that something that you wish you was it about like not being open or not being I think to go back to the homeschool, a lot of people would always question if you had the social abilities of someone that had been in school their entire life. Did that have anything to do with it, or was it just that you did
I
not
don't think
enjoy the
so. I've
kids?
always felt that I've excelled in social situations if I want to. I just didn't I didn't feel like I connected with a lot of the other people I went to school with. You know, kids are mean, stuff like that. So I kind of felt alienated a little bit. Certainly from not having the school experience, it was definitely a culture shock for me. But from an aspect of being socialized or being able to hold my own in a social situation, no, it was more of I just kind of felt alienated and it was a brand new experience for me.
Sure. What did you do outside of school? You said you started to care less and less as time went on. What did you end up spending time doing?
Playing video games.
As
I
simple as
played a lot of
that?
chess too, but then I kind of just went straight to video games after that. I kind of lost interest in chess when I was about 12 or 13 and focused all of it on video games.
What? I mean, we'll just jump straight into it. What were some of the early video games that you played?
I'm definitely a Nintendo kid. I played the hell out of all the Mario Brother games. Punch Out, all the classics. So I had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. I never owned a Sega Genesis or anything like that. So I'm pretty much straight Nintendo. I played all those over and over and over again.
Have you ever? You play a lot of kind of maybe not retro games is the best way to put it. But have you ever wanted to go back and play some of the Sega titles that you might have missed?
Yeah, I've thought about playing a few of them, but it's kind of a big project for later on. Like I feel like if I want to do retro, I need to kind of commit and buy some old consoles and capture equipment and get everything set up.
Sure. What were some of your favorite, I guess, Nintendo games growing up? Ones that, thinking back, you kind of wish you could take that part of your brain and forget it and re-experience the game over again.
I think Super Mario Brothers 3 always stands out to me because I remember every single secret in the game to this day, and I'll probably remember that when I'm 75 years old. It's never going to go away. But it was such a good experience as a child learning that game and finding all the little secrets and stuff.
What was it that drew you to video games starting out? Was it just kind of, I guess, to use kind of a mass media approach? Was it more of an escape, or is it just the fact that they were so captivating that you could focus in on something and just really get into that world in that game?
I think it was a combination of both throughout my life. I'd say when I was a younger child, it was definitely the captivating thing is something I could focus all of my attention on. I've always had a very active brain, so it's one of the few things I could do where I could sit down and focus on one thing. And I mean, I've also used them as an escape throughout my life too. It's just something to pass the time, but initially, definitely a captivating experience for me and something I could focus all my energy on.
Well, go back to kind of school. After high school, what direction did your life take?
Well, after high school, I actually got really depressed because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I spent just a lot of time gaming and not really doing all that much until I decided to go to culinary school. There's definitely a period there where I was just kind of being a loser, I guess, for lack of a better term. That's what I was doing. Smoking pot and playing video games for a couple of years.
What was it that I guess made you kind of want to change? What was it? Just the fact that it got old smoking pot and playing video games after so
Yeah,
long, or
it definitely got old. When I was like 15, almost 16, my dad was diagnosed with bipolar manic depressive, and it was a very late onset for him. So I had this really stable father figure in my life for most of my life, and then it kind of turn myself upside down. So I just kind of wanted to get away from everything. So I did that for a long time, and I woke up one day and I realized I'm really unhappy with what I'm doing. I'm not going anywhere. So I decided to go back to school and do something rather than just become complacent.
What was that something? What did you end up going back to school and
Oh, I initially
hoping
just
for?
went to community college and took some just random, classes that didn't really mean all that much towards a degree. And then figured out that I wanted to go to culinary school. I'd always grown up cooking and spent a lot of time cooking with my grandfather. My dad showed me how to cook when I was a kid, so I pursued that and really enjoyed it. So it's good.
With culinary school, I think it's something that a lot of your followers and your stream viewers know about, especially because you've done shows, cooking with Frag and whatnot. Was it something that just came easy to you, stepping into the world of the culinary arts, or was it just something you found kind of you wanted to get better at, so that's what propelled you?
It's something I always found interesting, and I wouldn't consider myself a great cook. I still don't consider myself the best to this day. It was extremely intimidating. You go into culinary school, and it's just amazing how much information gets thrown at you about food. You don't think there's that much information out there about food, but there is. It was definitely very hard, but rewarding at the same time. I definitely don't. I don't know how to put it. The actual culinary school experience didn't really prepare me to work in kitchens, but it gave me a lot of knowledge. Everything else was done on the job.
I won't ask what kitchens, obviously, but in terms of what you did in those kitchens, was it just a line cook? Was that kind of the extent of your culinary position?
I did a wide variety of stuff. I've worked everything from dishwasher to every position on the line to prep cook. Um, I always did a little bit of everything. So I always excelled at things that took organization. So I was probably best at being a prep cook because it requires a lot of organization and timing and stuff like that. But I've done it all.
Talking about like the actual food, was there a particular dish that you enjoyed both preparing and eating to this day? Something that you still, from those days, kind of kept with you and cook for perhaps friends or even for yourself on a weekly or even nightly basis?
Not a nightly basis, but every couple of months I make duck breast with blackberry sauce, and then I saute Brussels sprouts in the duck fat. That's one of the favorite things I've eaten having worked in a kitchen, so I always revisit it because it's so damn good.
Would you consider yourself a foodie at all? Do you watch or read about food on a consistent basis or no?
I really don't, but I'm always willing to try new things and new recipes and stuff like that. So in that sense, I am. I have no hesitations about trying anything when it comes to food.
What was the ultimate reason that you ended up leaving the kitchen? Was it just the work was too demanding or you didn't enjoy it? Was it as simple as that?
Well, I mean, perfectly honest, I really enjoyed the work itself. You get to work with a bunch of misfits, and it's kind of a unique environment, which is rewarding in itself. But it's a dead end job, or it was for me, because I didn't want to move up to a chef or a management position and have to manage other people and do inventory and hiring, firing, making schedule, all that stuff. I just wanted to cook the food, and I realized that I could do that at home if I could do something else for money.
After you ended up quitting, was there a time of reflection and did you go back into the kind of place of depression that you were prior to, or was it just straight from being a cook to I'm going to stream for 2 years? Like, what was that process?
Well, what happened was I was working for a golf and country club, and they were union based, which is rare in Washington State. But they had to do layoffs when the regiment hit, and I was the last person on the list to get cut off. It had nothing to do with job performance or anything else. It was sheerly based on tenure. So that's when I got started on the internet, and I started working on Twitter and YouTube. And I ended up getting another job after that, which I ended up quitting to do the challenge. But there was definitely a pretty large period of depression there where I felt like I didn't have a good place. I didn't really, there was no job I could get in town that would be better than the job I got laid off from. It was pretty much the best job you could get cooking in town. So that was kind of a hopeless feeling.
I'm going to be kind of splicing community questions here and there throughout this. And One of the most common questions from the community was the fact that people were asking about your depression, and I think a lot of people deal with this kind of on a daily basis. What was it that you did to get out of that state of being, and what advice would you give to those who may be in the same situation?
I think that what I did is I started doing something. I think if you stop doing anything when you're feeling depressed is when it gets worse and worse. When I first got onto doing stuff online, I literally had no idea what I was doing. I had a crappy Dazzle capture card, and I just made a Twitter account, and I was all gung ho. But it was something to fill my time, something to do. It wasn't very effective. I wasn't doing very well, but at least gave me something to work towards. So having something to work towards is good, and depression's really brutal, and it has been for me. I'll go months at a time where I feel very low energy, and then I'll also have months where I have this heightened sense of clarity, and I feel awesome, and I'm really motivated to do everything. But having an underlying goal or something to work on, I think, is the biggest piece.
Did you ever explore like different types of medicine to combat the depression, or has it always just been something that you've got over or got through, not over, I guess is the best way to say that, by yourself?
I've never liked taking medications. I've tried a few different antidepressants. They just made me feel weird. So I found most of my struggles are purely mental. So if I can find a way to think through it, I can usually be okay. But sometimes you have to talk to somebody, or I mean, I'm all for therapy and counseling if you need it and whatnot. And some people do, I believe, need antidepressants. I just didn't think it was for me. I always found a way to overcome whatever rut I was in.
Well, let's kind of go back to being uplifting here. What prior to starting the challenge, you said you worked at a country club. Was there any other kind of odd jobs? I guess if you could say odd jobs prior to Twitch.
It was all kitchens. So that's the only real job I had before streaming.
Now, the challenge. What First off, where did you hear about Twitch? I think is probably the best place to start.
I was heard from him from Dutch EDC, who doesn't stream anymore, but he was a good friend of mine on Twitter. We talked a lot on Skype and whatnot. And he's like, "Man, you gotta try streaming. You've been doing YouTube. You should try it. It's super fun." And I turned him down a bunch of times, and he finally convinced me to do it. And I was like, "Wow, this is awesome. If I could do this, I'd be super happy because I really enjoy it. Just enjoy the live aspect of it." But I heard it from him and started streaming about a month afterwards.
You said that you had started on YouTube. Was that just kind of your live stream, but in parts on YouTube? What was the content that you were actually
I
producing?
had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do with my YouTube. I wanted to demonstrate how to do spawning frags in Call of Duty. So it's something I've always done. I played a lot of Call of Duty. I wanted to show people how to take where you spawn, how to throw your grenade to kill the other team within the first 5 seconds. So that was the pure goal of my YouTube channel, is to do that. So that was my initial piece, and I worked on that for almost a year.
Is that I gotta ask? I should have probably done this at the start, but is that where Lethal Frag came from, or were you just
That
always a
is
big FPS gamer?
that's where the name came from. At that
Okay,
time, I only played FPS games.
okay, and so you were kind of born, I guess, or reborn maybe into video games from like the Call of Duty, the beginning of the Call of Duty days. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. I played Call of Duty exclusively for almost 5 years.
Wow. So that's what that's Modern Warfare. I mean that's at least five Call of Duty titles because it's five
Yep.
years, right? I can't I don't know them off the top of my head. I'm sure
Yeah,
you
you
do.
see, Modern Warfare, World at War,
That's
Modern
right.
Warfare 2, Black Ops, and then Modern Warfare 3 is when I quit.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of Call of Duty. Were you the type of guy to I assume you were pretty competitive if you were making videos showing how to frag on spawn. Were you the type of guy that would go to Prestige and Prestige 10 and all that?
I'd usually end up waiting to Prestige and then regret Prestiging. That
As soon as you
happened.
lost all your stuff?
Yeah, as soon as I lost all my stuff, every time.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, to talk about the challenge, what was it that, I mean, did you know on day one before you started this challenge that, like, I'm going to stream every day for 2 years, and that's just what I'm going to do? Or was this something that kind of started through a process where you streamed for a couple days and then you realized that I need to challenge myself and I need to create some sort of task that I can do on a daily basis. How did that all get started?
Well, I had been streaming for about 3 months, not all that consistently, but probably 3 or 4 times a week when I could in between work. Um, I know the idea just kind of hit me like a freight truck. I was in the shower and I was like, "That's a really good idea. Like, can I do that? I'm not sure if I can do that. I should find out if I can do that because I think it would work." So I sat down and wrote out a whole business plan and looked at my financials and saw if I could feasibly do it. And I thought I could, so I went for it. It was more a matter of committing myself to something. I've had a habit in my lifetime of starting projects, not finishing them, working on one thing a lot, and then switching projects. And I said, I need to sit down. I need to do something for so much amount of time to see if it can work. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I was willing to commit 2 years to doing it because I knew I would love being able to do it for a living.
Was there a stream that you caught or anything like that in terms of some of the bigger streamers that helped inspire this idea, if you can remember back?
Could definitely say Man versus Game because he was the first person to be a successful variety broadcaster. And I think that that's what most people want as individuals, be able to play the games they want to and still have that success. So it's definitely an inspiration. Just looking at the stream, also Day 9, of course. I definitely looked at a lot of the bigger streamers just from a business model perspective and looked at what they did and took some inspiration from that.
Day one of the live stream, I should actually splice some footage in here. Maybe in post I'll do that. But did you have any viewers? Were you talking to yourself practically on the stream, or was
At
it
that
more
point,
successful?
when I started the challenge, I had somewhere between 15 and 30 concurrent. I think I got 50 for my first day, and I was really really happy with that. So I definitely had a small established viewer base. Nothing you could call successful, but I was happy that I had people in front of me. I certainly, when I first started streaming, had plenty of nights of zero viewers, but at that point, I had something.
Back then, when you had so little viewers, was the interaction between you and your community, even, I mean, you can call a group of people that small definitely a community.
Yep.
Was it better or was it worse than, I guess, kind of to these bigger numbers that you have now, in your opinion?
It's a lot. It was different because I was at that level, literally able to read and respond to every chat line. Not every chat line is something you want to read and respond to, but you end up doing it anyways because it's there.
Right.
So on that level, definitely the communication is better. As your channel grows bigger, it becomes harder and harder to interact effectively with everybody.
The idea of the beard, did that start day one? Were you just like, maybe I won't shave, or was that just something that your viewers suggested? I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before, but where'd it come from?
It was preconceived by my viewers because I broached the idea of doing a 2 year live stream challenge to my viewers, and most of them called me crazy. But I asked if there's anything they wanted me to do, and they said, "Oh, well, you shouldn't shave for 2 years to show your commitment to the challenge." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." I had pretty big chops at the time, so I shaved clean day one to start, and you're looking at almost 2 years now.
I gotta ask. I mean, this is real talk. Did you ever cheat? Did it ever get to you?
Nope, it didn't. But I'll show you right here. I got this one section of my beard that's way longer than the other, and it just drives me nuts. And I have to tuck it up under every night. So I'm looking forward to trimming that bastard off.
Oh God, are you? I mean, we're kind of skipping ahead here, but are you keeping it when you're done? Or do you think you're gonna keep some sort of beard? I mean, it's
Oh,
kind of coming
definitely.
to it's come
It's
to
kind
be
of iconic.
you. Yeah.
So I don't think there's any way I can just shave clean. I'll probably just trim it down and call it good.
There you
We'll
go.
see what happens.
Gotcha. When did you first start to get good viewership? And we're talking maybe from 30s to kind of the hundreds to maybe even the thousands later on. When did that viewership spike start? If you could remember even the days into the challenge.
Um, I was doing pretty good around 300, 350 around March after the challenge began, and then I switched to Diablo 3 and it kind of tanked my channel. I had to recover from that. So I wouldn't say I felt like I was getting good, consistent viewership until probably like November of last year. And it's only been frankly recently, middle of this year, that I felt actually comfortable with the stability of my channel. It's been a long time coming. It feels like a very gradual build up, but I was playing only Binding of Isaac for 4.5 months straight. If you play only one game, and then you try to switch games, you're in for a big shock because your viewer count just tanks, and that's its own personal hell as a streamer.
Prior to the, I guess, 1K plus days in terms of viewership, what were some of the biggest obstacles that you faced?
I think the biggest obstacle I faced having a channel grow was trying to maintain my ideals of what I wanted the chat to be. I really wanted to have a friendly community. I didn't want people to argue. I didn't want all the things you see that happen in Twitch channels, the arguments, the spam, the whatever it is, people being obnoxious. I wanted a friendly, stable environment. So trying to fight for that as more and more people are watching is very difficult and causes a lot of conflict. Received countless messages saying, "Oh, you're going to run your channel into the ground, timing so many people out." But I really believed I wanted that style of channel, um, and it was a major struggle for me for while the channel grew.
Is there anything else apart from kind of the chat that, I mean, I got streaming every day for 2 years has to be an obstacle, is it not? Or is it just that easy for you to flip on the stream and sit there and talk to the community and
No,
play your
it's
game?
definitely I've definitely had days where I didn't want to stream. I'm not gonna lie. I've
Hmm.
been sick several times, and that's probably the hardest to get on because everybody's concerned for you, but getting told that you're sick 18 times in 5 minutes while you're already you feel like you want to pass out is extremely difficult. Um, I've had to cut a lot of caffeine and other junk out of my diet because I realized real quickly it was making me lethargic. Definitely had to make a lot of adjustments for my own health during the challenge. It's been a struggle, a lot of back pain, a lot of other little things that come up.
In terms of being a more established and much bigger channel now, do you still face the you've also gone sub only in terms of your channel, which I think a lot of people on Twitch argue about to this day
Yep.
on every channel. Has there been any other obstacles now that you are as big as you are? Is that an obstacle in itself that you are as big as you are?
Um, I don't really consider that an obstacle. I mean, I'm really blessed to have the community and viewership that I do. I would say the majority of my mental struggles in that fashion are done. You always have to continue to try to improve and innovate and do new things to stay current, and that will never change. You can't just become complacent in this industry because people are always trying to improve something. But I would say the majority of my mental hurdles are finished now.
Was there a tipping point for you throughout the experience where you realized that this could really be your job? I mean, that was kind of the goal you set out for, and I think you said this year is when you really started to feel like it is your
Yeah.
job and you're able to support yourself on it.
Um, just within the past 3 months, to be honest, I felt comfortable. You always have self-doubt, and no matter how good you're doing, you still think, well, what if, what if this happens? What if I go on vacation and nobody comes back? What if, you constantly think about that kind of stuff. So it's really just in the past couple months after going sub only, which is probably the hardest period for me mentally because you receive so much, and you say people argue about it. So, uh, as a streamer, you do care about what people think. But after that point where I went sub only and after I rationalized everything and got all the feedback, I felt good about live streaming with a channel the size I have. Um, when you start out, you never imagine having that many people watching you or people respect you or want advice from you or look up to you or be an inspiration. So it wasn't until after that point where I actually felt stability.
What were some of the big games that you think throughout the 2 year period really either had rapid growth for the channel, or just an experience that you, whether or not it was successful viewership wise, you will remember kind of sharing with your community?
Well, obviously, Binding of Isaac's always going to be my staple game because I've put 1,500 hours or so of that on stream. One gem of a stream that I talk about sometimes that I remember was the game Wizorb. It's a stupid little block breaker game, but I love Arkanoid and always have. Played it in the arcade all the time, so it was a really good experience for me. And I had really shitty viewership that day for where I was at, but I actually had a really good time. And to this day, I still have, I think, 5 or 6 subs that subbed on that cast that still are subbed to me. And it made me realize that it didn't really matter how many viewers I had. As long as I could enjoy myself and play something I enjoyed, people would also enjoy it. Well, it's nice to have the big numbers. You can do just as much with smaller numbers as long as everybody's enjoying themselves. So that one's very memorable for me. And then as far as rapid growth goes, I Want to Be the Boshi last year did me a solid there. And Sim City in March was the biggest month I'd ever had by far. I think it still is.
What to talk about that, because I kind of experienced the same thing, and I think a lot of streamers did with SimCity. Do you think people are just watching that to see how bad it was failing? Like, what was the big draw for
I
SimCity?
honestly think that it was more nostalgia than anything because it was a decade since the last SimCity
Yeah,
released,
true.
and I mean, I played so much SimCity when I was a kid. I would build up the cities and then summon in the tornadoes and Godzilla and fires to burn it down. So I think there was definitely from a lot of people's childhood where they wanted to come back and revisit something like that. The game wasn't very well made, in my opinion, but it was fun.
Speaking about Twitch in general, this is a community question. A lot of people always kind of look at Destiny and they see what he's done in terms of still using Twitch but separating himself from it and creating his own website, creating his own ads there, also creating his own subscription program. Is that ever something that you'll do in terms of your own brand, or will you always kind of stay on Twitch just because of what they've done in terms of allowing you to make this a job?
I'm a firm believer in loyalty. And I can't say I'm not saying Destiny's wrong in doing what he's doing. Every individual has something different, but Twitch has really helped me as a person, as a broadcaster, achieve my goals, and for that, I'll be forever loyal to the site. I always tell people to subscribe instead of donate because I want to support the site as well, and I truly do mean that. Um, I received my sub button under requirements because a staff member noticed me and recommended me for it. The just Twitch TV and the entire staff and the site has been such a huge friend to me and done everything they can to help me out. So I want to continue doing that. And frankly, they provide the medium for me to live stream. So I'm all about supporting the company that supports me, and that will not change.
One of the things that I think you've been very open about is what games you play and the fact that for the most part they are more skewed towards kind of the indie world. Granted, you do play a AAA title every now, SimCity, for example. You've played through XCOM. I'm probably forgetting a couple, but do you tend to prefer these indie games rather than these big AAA titles for your stream?
For my stream, definitely. If you go on Twitch when a new game releases, there's 350 people streaming that game on release night. I don't really like to get caught up in the hype trains. It's fun to play games if you enjoy them, but I'm in a pretty unique position where I can take a game that nobody has ever seen or very few people stream and kind of not make it popular, but make people aware of it. So I think it's important for me to continue to do that for indie games because the AAA titles don't really need any help, and there's a lot of really nice gems out there that don't get any recognition.
I think to speak a little bit more to that, indie games have a very unique opportunity in the fact that some of the things that they do are just better when it comes to streaming than a lot of these AAA titles. What are some of the things that you've seen, and please give examples of indie titles that have done something that you want to see more of for your that kind of complement both the game and your own stream?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen in indie games, and this goes for pretty much any roguelike is the random generation of items or floors or anything that really suit themselves as streaming. As a streamer, if you don't stream, you don't think about it, but if you have to play video games for 6 to 8 hours a day, every single day, you have to have some form of replayability. And I think indie games really nail that. I have a really hard time. You're not going to put 500 hours into a AAA title. It'd be extremely rare because there's not enough content there. You probably get your one or two playthroughs. If you want 100% it, maybe you're getting 60 hours. But it's all about the random generation. The more of that, the better, in my opinion.
What about least effective? Is there anything that indie games could do better at when it comes to helping or putting something in the game that does support a streamer?
I know it's really hard to say because streaming's so unique to each person.
Hmm.
I mean, some people like to speedrun. I don't like to speedrun, so I'm all about random generation. But I don't think there's any right or wrong. And there's so many different variations of indie games. It's incredibly hard to tackle what's enjoyable to everybody.
Sure. What is the process that you go through? Like, do you sit down on, I don't know, a Monday, whatever the start of the week is for you? You work 7 days of the week, so there isn't really a start. It's just one 2 year process. But what is the process you go through in terms of choosing a game? Is it day of, well, I feel like playing this tonight, or um, is there more of a thought process put into it?
Um, it goes back and forth. Like right now, I'm literally just doing it by the day. I have no idea what I'm gonna stream today. Well, actually, I do, but I will. Most days, I'll sit down and just make a decision on what I want to play. I've also had times where I planned out my entire week of the games I want to play. I honestly prefer the scheduled format where I know what I'm gonna play, but on a 7 day a week schedule, it doesn't really work out all the time. 5 day a week schedule, I definitely think planning's the way to go. But for the majority, it's just been sit down and figure out what you want to play.
Is there any titles coming up in 2014 that you're really looking forward to, indie or AAA, that you will 100% without a doubt stream or
Definitely
play?
Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Eugenics, and then FTL Advanced Edition is also coming out. Uh, I love FTL, so I'm really excited it's getting more content.
You haven't really jumped on the next gen at all. You don't even own a PS4 and Xbox One, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that something you can see yourself doing in 2014, jumping onto some of those other
It's
AAA
it's a
titles?
possibility. My problem was with the next generation consoles, none of the exclusives really screamed at me,
Hmm.
so I didn't want to spend $500 and then reinstall my capture card and have all these wires hanging around so I can play one or two games and then have it collect dust. So maybe in 6 months or so I'll revisit buying a next generation console, but I'm happy with PC for now.
I think a lot of people will be happy to hear you say that. Um, Thinking back on the past 2 years, uh, were you ever was there ever the thought in your mind that you could actually fail, and did it ever cross your mind and maybe stop or hurt some decisions that you might have made throughout the process?
Believe it or not, I've had that thought every single day. Every single day of the challenge, I thought, what if I fail? Can I fail? What can I do not to fail? Like really, when it first started out, it was pretty crippling. Like you receive messages and people say shit like, "How does it feel? How does it feel to make less than minimum wage working at McDonald's?" and stuff like that. So you're constantly flooded with this negative stuff. You're never gonna make it. Of course, you have supportive people in your community as well. There's always been very supportive people, but every day I thought about failing and what I could do not to fail. I still have worries about taking vacation. I'm sure I'm going to be fine, but I still have that negative self-doubt. It never goes away. But I use
Absolutely.
that to motivate myself rather than let it make me depressed.
Talking about your presence and considering the fact that you are kind of this pretty giant force on Twitch, but it all exists online. How do you feel about the state of your website and everything outside of kind of the Twitch channel? Is that something you want to improve on moving forward once you're done with the
Sure,
challenge?
it's something I want to improve, but I wouldn't say it's a huge priority for me. I've spent a lot of time doing social media and other stuff, and it really doesn't interest me as much anymore. I have something very well established on the Twitch channel. I can branch out from there. Would I like my website to look better? Absolutely. Do I have time to do it right now? No, I don't. And I don't really want to take the time to manage it either. I'm always for improving what you can. It's just a matter of how you want to spend your time. And that hasn't been something I wanted to spend my time on yet.
Kind of thinking about this past week, and there's been a lot of issues with YouTube and copyright claims. And I think the biggest comment from kind of the general public is the fact that a lot of people consider what you and I do and all the other YouTubers and all the other Twitch streamers out there to not be a job. Can you kind of combat that comment and maybe explain a little bit more to try and fix that? It's almost a stigma which is attached to
It is a
everyone
stigma.
that
It is a stigma.
makes this content online.
Well, I can say I've put 8,000 hours of my own time into having a career in online entertainment. That's a fuckload of time. That's a lot of time I put into chasing my dream and making it happen. I've tried harder to do this, put in more man hours, slept less, worked harder to make it happen, to give myself a chance. Making money online, if you can actually make job money, make career money. Anybody that's got to that position did not get there by half-assing it. They probably put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and lost a lot of sleep to get where they're at. I have nothing but respect for people that make money online. It's not just posting videos up to YouTube and making people laugh. There's a lot of networking and spreadsheets and taking time and spending every moment of your day thinking about your job to get where you're at.
Is it for everyone?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, I would say it's not for most people.
With I think with big streamers and really anyone that has a community or an online presence, there's one question that you always get asked more than any other. But I feel like you kind of have a unique viewpoint, so I am going to go ahead and ask it. What's your advice to someone that does want to start streaming and does want to try to do this for a career? And what would you suggest to them to start out to do and maybe set throughout the process? What are some goals that they should try to set for themselves?
I mean, the best advice I can give anybody is have fun with it. If you stop having fun, you're destined for failure. But having a clearly defined idea of what you want out of your channel, whether it be a concept of how your channel's run, what you want out of your community, having all these things preconceived, I think is very important. Because if you just show up and stream, you never know what you're going to get. Even if you get numbers, maybe you don't have the community you want, or you can't play the games you want. And something I tell everybody every time somebody asks me for advice, I tell them, excuse me. All right, I lost my train of thought there.
No problem. What is it that you tell everyone that asks for advice?
Be ready to change. You're probably not going to get what you expect. There is no guarantee for success. I can't tell you how to get more viewers. I don't know what's entertaining to other people, but you have to know what you want to end up getting something at least close to that. Always explain to people what you're doing on your channel. Explain what your goals are. Explain what you're trying to do. Explain your ideals over and over and over again. I think the 2-year live stream challenge in itself did that for me. People came back to support me because I was streaming every day for 2 years. And I had to explain that because that was the most asked question. What is the 2-year live stream challenge? I've answered that question 10,000 times or more. But that was actually to my benefit because it was explaining, why am I here? You have to tell people why they want to watch you.
The long hours have definitely got to be something that's got to get tiresome. I mean, I'm sure you're looking, even though it is kind of maybe a little bit sad for you getting to the end of this, I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
Oh, definitely.
How did you manage to do it for 2 years? What kept you going on a day-to-day basis? Was it just the promise of I set forth to do this and I'm going to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty stubborn. I'll just go ahead and throw my daughter in there. Big inspiration because I knew if I failed here, I'd have to go back to working in kitchens. I wouldn't really be able to provide the quality of life that I wanted to for her. So it was always a motivation when I woke up. I was feeling really bad. Um, that I had a reason to get up and at least do my best. That's always been my motto. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not going to be 100% every day, but if I feel like I'm 40% and I can get 45, I've probably done the best job that I can.
How has the career choice affected those closest to you, your daughter and also the rest of your family?
Actually in a positive way because I know, well, I do work 7 days a week right now and the hours have been pretty crazy, especially during the start. I at least know what my schedule is. When I worked in kitchens, work a night shift and then wake up and work a day shift, and then you schedule in the afternoon. So it's very hard to schedule time. I have more time to spend with those closest to me now, working 7 days a week than I did working in kitchens. So it's been really rewarding in that sense.
Well, we're kind of getting to the end of this. So this journey you've been on for 2 years is done here in about, I think you said, 3 weeks. January
Yep.
5th is the end date, and the recording is this recording was done on 12/15. So very very close. What happens on the final day?
I mean, as of that, I really don't know. I know I'm going to be really emotionally overwhelmed. So it might just be me talking to the camera, or I might play a game. It feels weird having it looming over the end. I often catch myself thinking about what I'm going to say on the last day, or if I want to prepare a speech or something. I really don't know what's going to happen. So it's a mystery to me.
Do you plan to make it a bigger day than most in terms of what you do and all the promotion around it? I'm sure Twitch is going to promote the hell out of it. But
I don't have any big plans to make it a big special event. I've never done like big parties for follower counts or view counts and stuff like that. I already know it's going to be a big day and people will talk about it without me doing anything else.
hmm.
It's going to be one of the biggest days of my life, so I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm sure it'll work out exactly how it's supposed to.
What happens after?
Well, after I take a 2 week vacation and then go on a 5 day a week, 7 hour a day schedule. I mean, that's the goal, to have 2 days off a week, to have time spent with family and have a little bit of a personal life for once.
Are you going to be able to stay away for 2 weeks? Is it going to be easy for you, or is it going to be hard for you for
Well, I'll be
something
on
you've
actual
done?
vacation. I'm not going to bring my
Oh,
laptop,
okay.
so I should be okay. I'll probably have the shakes on day two, and then I'll get over it.
Yeah, for 2 years doing the same thing day in day out, I got to think that you might have a little bit of a withdrawal process when you go on the vacation. What exactly are you going to be doing for your vacation, if I may ask?
I'm gonna go to Hawaii for a week. That'll be my family vacation, and then going to Vegas for 4 days.
There
I'll
you
have a
go.
couple days at home to relax and get back in the groove.
Are you at all? You spoke about a lot of the fact that you are taking this vacation and you haven't done it for 2 years. Are you at all concerned about a popularity drop and also the change to 5 day streams? Do you think that's going to be a big impact or maybe just a small one that eventually you'll get back?
And it's obviously it's something I worry about because I worry about everything. But I'm sure it'll be an adjustment. But I really do believe at this point. I mean, frankly, I'm exhausted right now, and being on a 5 day a week schedule and having a 3 hour chunk on one of my days off to plan out my week on the stream, I think it's going to be a huge benefit. I think I'll be more entertaining on 5 days a week. Well, it's a few less hours. I think the transition will go well.
You've started this past couple of months to look at your channel and look at the content that you produce. You've spoken about this on your stream, and wanting to perhaps do more things like shows and whatnot. What type of changes will people see on your stream from, I guess, after you take the break, when compared to kind of the 2 year process?
Um, I want to have more segments and formatting. Like I did tried out a bunch of different stuff. I did polls and game reviews and vlogs and all this other stuff. So I would like at the end of the day, if I when I continue to live stream for a long time, I'd like to have it down to it's like an actual show that you turn on and you know what to expect. Like, oh, today, we're gonna have an interview and a poll and we'll be reviewing this game. And have everything planned ahead in advance. But that's really a pipe dream that you have to have time to plan everything out. I tried to do everything at once, and I found out very quickly that it's very hard to generate that kind of content on the fly without it becoming watered down. But that's my goal, is to have an actual show. The interaction will always be there, the community will always be there, but go from just playing video games on a live stream to having an actual show format is my dream.
For the better part of 2 years, you've been mostly a pretty solitary streamer, and you have had guests on from time to time. Is that something you want to keep, or is that something you want to change moving forward?
I'd like to have people on for interviews, and I have the guest on occasion. But honestly, I'm a very private person, and streaming's very personal to me. When you bring somebody else onto your stream, it kind of changes the dynamic. It throws me off my game a little bit. So I think my stream will always be, for the most part, private in that sense. Not that I'm against having guests or doing segments, but streaming's very personal to me. I like it that way.
Well, the final question on All Real Talks, I guess it's time for that. Define success, and using that definition, do you find yourself to be successful at this stage in your life?
Success for me is feeling a sense of accomplishment and finding happiness in what you do. And I'd say in almost all regards, yes, I do consider myself successful. Success for me has nothing to do with money. As somebody that produces content online, you get called greedy all the time, or a sellout or whatever. I'm not. I'm not a rich man in the grand scheme of things, but I feel very rewarded in what I do, and that is truly success for me. I finally have something I can do every day that I love to do, and you can't put a price on that.
Well, it's time for the shout outs, or anything else you want to include here at the end of the interview. The mic is yours,
The
as I
mic is
should say.
mine. Well, I'll say thank you very much for having me out for the interview. As cheesy as it sounds, I'd like to thank everybody. I think about this often, that my challenge is not successful without other people, without word of mouth, without people talking about it. And the response I've gotten over the past years has been absolutely overwhelming. The amount of people that have talked about the challenge and recommended it to friends and stuff like that. So thanks everybody for making my dreams come true. Forever grateful.
I think if you want to check out Frag, or you've never checked out Frag, go over to twitch.tv/LethalFrag. The final day, January 5th. Do you have what time is that going to start? Is that midnight?
Probably start January 5th around 10 p.m. going into January 6th will be it.
You gonna do a full night stream? I guess you haven't. You said you haven't planned it out that far, so maybe I'm asking questions you don't know the answer to.
Probably like a 4 hour stream would be my guess, 10 to 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna be emotionally charged, so
Sure.
don't want to push myself too hard.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and good luck with the last couple of weeks of your challenge. And have a great vacation if I don't talk to you before then. And we'll see you in 2014. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching the final day. So once again, thank you very much for coming on, Frag.
No, thanks so much, JP. You have a great one, sir.
All right, guys, that does it for Real Talk. I will announce the next guest when I know. So stay tuned to youtube.com/JP. Until then, we'll see you next time. I'm out.